Commander Zex Thor stood on the bridge of the Galactic Confederation flagship Eternal Glory, his forearms crossed in what his species considered a gesture of absolute confidence. Three of his eyes focused on the holographic display of the blue-green planet below, while his fourth eye remained fixed on the status report scrolling across his neural interface. Such a primitive species, he chittered to his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Tal. Can you believe they still use combustion engines for their ground transportation? How positively quaint. Indeed, Commander Tal agreed, mandibles clicking in amusement. Their most advanced spacecraft can barely reach their own moon. The invasion should be over before third meal. The Confederation fleet of 200 ships had arrived at the edge of the Sol system 3 Earth days ago, cloaked in the latest phase shift technology that made them invisible to primitive electromagnetic detection systems. Or so they thought. At NORAD's headquarters deep within Cheyenne Mountain, General Richard Dick Thompson was having the worst day of his 30-year military career. The Quantum Detection Grid, a classified project that wasn't supposed to be operational for another 3 years, was lighting up like a Christmas tree on crack. "Someone please tell me this is a system malfunction," Thompson growled, his coffee cup trembling slightly in his hand. "Because I'm looking at what appears to be a fleet of ships larger than anything humanity has ever built, just sitting there at the edge of our solar system." Sir Lieutenant Chen replied, her fingers flying across 3 different keyboards simultaneously. "The quantum signatures are consistent across all detection nodes. Unless every single one of our sensors decided to malfunction in exactly the same way at exactly the same time. We've got aliens." Thompson finished, setting down his coffee. "Get me the president." Back on the Eternal Glory, Zex Thor was preparing his species' traditional greeting message. In the Confederation's 10,000 years of existence, this approach had worked flawlessly in subjugating nearly 300 primitive civilizations. "Attention inhabitants of Sol 3, the message began broadcasting in every human language, courtesy of their advanced linguistic algorithms. Your planet has been selected for integration into the Galactic Confederation. Resistance is futile and will result in immediate disciplinary action. Please prepare your planetary leadership for immediate surrender and resource allocation negotiations." The response came 30 seconds later in the form of a video transmission. A human female in a blue suit stood at a podium adorned with some sort of bird symbol. "This is the President of the United States, speaking on behalf of Earth's United Nations," she began, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "We are open to peaceful dialogue and cultural exchange, but we will not surrender our sovereignty. Any hostile action will be met with the full force of Earth's combined military might." Zex Thor burst out laughing, all 4 arms clutching his thorax in mirth. "They think they have military might. Oh, this is precious. Tal, prepare the first wave. Let's show them what real power looks like." The first wave consisted of 50 dropships, each carrying 100 of the Confederation's finest warriors. They broke through Earth's atmosphere in perfect formation, their energy shields easily deflecting the primitive missiles launched at them. The dropships touched down in several major cities simultaneously. In New York, the aliens emerged from their vessels in Central Park, their plasma rifles held high as a show of force. That's when everything started going wrong. First, several warriors began experiencing respiratory distress. Their environmental suits, designed to filter out toxic particles and biological weapons, were apparently useless against Earth's natural bacterial flora. Second, the humans weren't running away screaming as every other species had done. Instead, they were filming with their primitive communication devices, and some were even laughing. "Look at these guys," one human shouted. "They've got the same design aesthetic as my grandma's china cabinet." The final insult came when a group of local law enforcement officers arrived. The alien warriors fired their plasma rifles, expecting to see the humans disintegrate as all other carbon-based lifeforms did. Instead, the plasma bolts merely singed their clothing. "Their bones are too dense," one warrior screamed into the command channel. "The plasma can't penetrate their skeletal structure." Then the humans started shooting back. The warriors' personal shields, calibrated for energy weapons and high-velocity projectiles, failed to stop the relatively slow-moving lead bullets. It turned out that sometimes primitive technology had its advantages. Back on the Eternal Glory, Zex Thor watched in horror as the casualty reports started flooding in. In just under 15 minutes, he had lost over 2,000 warriors. "Impossible," he muttered. All 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "They're just primitives," Sir Tal interrupted, his voice shaking. "The medical bay is reporting that our troops are being attacked by microscopic organisms native to the planet's biosphere. Our immune systems have no defense against them. Recall all forces, Zexthor screamed. Recall them now. As the surviving dropships frantically returned to the fleet, Zexthor received one final transmission from Earth. It was just 3 words, but they would haunt his nightmares forever. Welcome to Earth. Colonel James Reaper Morrison was enjoying his retirement in the mountains of Colorado when the aliens invaded. By enjoying, of course, he meant maintaining a fully stocked bunker, running daily combat drills, and keeping his shooting skills sharp, much to the amusement of his neighbors, who thought the old Marine was just another doomsday prepper. Who's laughing now? Morrison thought as he watched the alien dropships retreating from New York on his tactical display. He took a sip from his coffee mug, which read "World's okayest retired colonel," a gag gift from his old unit that he secretly loved. Recalled it, he muttered to himself, checking his watch. Didn't think it'd be aliens, though. Figured it'd be zombies. The encrypted satellite phone on his desk buzzed. Only 3 people had this number, and 2 of them were dead. He picked up on the first ring. Morrison General Thompson's voice crackled through. Remember that time in Tehran when you told me your contingency plan for an alien invasion? Morrison grinned. The one you said would get me court-martialed in peacetime. That's the one. How fast can you get to Cheyenne Mountain? Faster than those 4 armed bastards can figure out why their troops are dropping like flies from the common cold. 20 minutes later, Morrison's heavily modified Jeep was screaming down the mountain roads at speeds that would make a NASCAR driver nervous. His mind wandered to the last time he'd been called in for a special consultation. It was Baghdad, 2019. His unit had been tasked with clearing a supposedly abandoned chemical weapons facility. Standard operation until they found out it wasn't abandoned, and it wasn't chemical weapons. The brass had classified everything afterward, but Morrison never forgot what he saw. The technology, the bodies, the crashed scout ship. He'd been preparing for this day ever since. Sir, the gate guard at Cheyenne Mountain snapped to attention as Morrison pulled up. General Thompson is waiting for you in the war room. The war room was chaos when Morrison walked in. Screens showed global casualty reports, alien ship positions, and what appeared to be medical data. General Thompson stood in the center, barking orders like a conductor leading a particularly aggressive symphony. Dick, Morrison called out, using the nickname that only he could get away with. Tell me someone's running bacterial cultures on those alien corpses we recovered. Thompson grinned. Already on it. Doctor, show him what we found. A tired-looking woman in a lab coat stepped forward, holding a tablet. Colonel Morrison, the aliens have no natural immunity to Earth's microbiome. Even harmless bacteria that live on human skin are lethal to them. Their environmental suits can't filter out everything. It's like trying to stop water with a tennis racket. Morrison's eyes lit up with the kind of gleam that had earned him his nickname. So what you're telling me is that we're not just dangerous because of our weapons. We're walking biological warfare units. Essentially, yes, even being in proximity to humans for extended periods is hazardous to them. Morrison turned to Thompson. Remember that plan you said would get me court-martialed? The one with the sewage treatment plants. God help me, I actually want to hear this now. Morrison pulled up a map on the main display. Their ground troops have to land somewhere. They're targeting population centers, trying to shock and awe us. But what they don't know is that every major city has an extensive underground infrastructure. Sewers, maintenance tunnels, subway systems. He zoomed in on New York. They want shock and awe. Let's give them a taste of their own medicine. But first, we need to understand their command structure. A junior officer spoke up. Sir, we've intercepted their communications. They're hierarchical, extremely so. If their commander is killed or incapacitated, the entire unit falls into disarray. Perfect. Morrison's grin would have made a shark swim the other way. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to let them land again. Same places as before. But this time we're going to be ready. He outlined his plan, watching as expressions around the room shifted from skepticism to understanding to predatory anticipation. This is insane, Thompson said finally. You want to turn our cities into giant petri dishes. They already are, Dick. We're just going to help our microscopic friends along. And while the bacteria do their work, we'll show these aliens why humans are called Deathworlders. Morrison pulled up footage from the first invasion attempt. Look at how they move. Textbook formations, perfect spacing. They've never faced an enemy that could truly hurt them. They're soft. We're not. He turned to the room. Humanity didn't climb to the top of the food chain by being nice. We got here by being the most persistent, adaptable killers this planet has ever seen. These aliens think they're apes predators. They haven't seen anything yet. The next hour was spent refining the plan. Morrison insisted on using old-school radio communications harder for the aliens to intercept than digital signals. Teams were assembled, contingencies were planned, and a particularly enthusiastic CDC scientist started culturing specific bacterial strains that would be especially problematic for alien biology. One more thing Morrison added as they were wrapping up. We need to get into their heads. Psychological warfare. These aliens have never lost a war. They've never even faced real resistance. We're not just going to beat them, we're going to break them. He turned to Thompson. Remember what you used to call me in Tehran? The ghost who walks. Thompson nodded slowly, beginning to understand. Well, Morrison said, checking the action on his custom rifle, it's time to give these aliens some ghost stories of their own. As if on cue, the quantum detection grid lit up again. The alien fleet was moving into attack position, right on schedule, Morrison muttered. He keyed his radio using one of the old frequencies. All units, this is Reaper. The party's about to start. Let's show these tourists why Earth is classified as a death world. Around the globe, resistance cells received their orders. In sewage treatment plants, engineers began making specific adjustments. In subway tunnels, special forces teams took up positions. In laboratories, scientists prepared their microscopic weapons. And in his command center, Zex Thor remained blissfully unaware that his simple invasion was about to become a masterclass in why you don't mess with a species that evolved on a planet that's constantly trying to kill it. Morrison checked his watch one last time. Ladies and gentlemen, in about 6 hours, a lot of aliens are going to learn a very important lesson about Earth. What's that? Thompson asked. Morrison's grin was pure predator. That humans don't need fancy technology to be lethal. We managed that all on our own. The second wave of alien dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their hulls gleaming in the morning sun. This time they were prepared. Or so they thought. Commander Zex Thor had equipped his warriors with enhanced environmental suits, upgraded weapon systems, and specific orders to maintain distance from the primitive humans. He watched through the fleet's observation systems as his forces landed in precise formations. On the ground, Morrison keyed his radio. All units, Operation Ghostbusters is a go. Remember, we're not here to fight fair. We're here to make them regret ever hearing about Earth. The alien warriors moved cautiously through New York streets, their advanced sensors scanning for human resistance. They found nothing. The city appeared deserted. This is Patrol Leader Caxvol, one warrior reported. No sign of the primitives. They must have fled after our first attack. The manhole cover beneath Caxvol's feet suddenly exploded upward, launched by a precisely calculated charge. A cloud of aerosolized sewage specially cultured with bacteria particularly nasty to alien biology engulfed his entire squad. Surprise! Motherfu Morrison's voice crackled through stolen alien communication channels as chaos erupted across the city. Similar scenes played out in every landing zone. Aliens found their navigation systems scrambled by carefully placed electromagnetic pulse devices scavenged from their own crashed ships. Their formation integrity broke as streets suddenly collapsed beneath them, dropping entire squads into prepared kill zones in the subway tunnels. They're in the walls, one alien warrior screamed before his signal went dead. They're in the ground. They're everywhere. Morrison's voice came through their comms again, digitally distorted to sound like something from their worst nightmares. Welcome to Earth's tutorial level, kids. Difficulty setting Deathworld. From his mobile command post in an abandoned subway maintenance room, Morrison watched the chaos unfold on multiple screens. Teams of resistance fighters, many former special forces operators, emerged from hidden positions to engage the aliens in close combat, where their superior technology meant nothing against good old-fashioned violence and knowledge of the terrain. So one of Morrison's operators reported, they're trying to adapt, switching to ranged combat with their plasma weapons. Morrison chuckled. How's that working out for them? On screen, a plasma bolt hit a Marine squarely in the chest. His tactical vest was scorched, but he kept charging, tackling the shocked alien warrior into a puddle of specially prepared street water. Their weapons are like really angry sun lamps, the operator replied, grinning. Turns out when your species evolves on a death world, you get some pretty dense bones and resilient tissue. Morrison keyed his radio again. Phase 2, people. Let's give them something to think about. Across the city, Hidden speakers began broadcasting a mix of heavy metal music and the recorded sounds of human laughter. The psychological effect on the aliens was immediate and devastating. Their hierarchical minds, used to order and precision, began to crack under the assault of chaos and noise. "This is Commander Zex Thor." Their leader's panicked voice came through intercepted channels. "All units maintain formation." "Maintain? What is that sound? Why are they laughing?" "Hey, Four Arms," Morrison broadcast back, his voice echoing through their command network. "Having fun yet? Because we're just getting started." To demonstrate his point, a group of warriors found themselves caught between two teams of humans emerging from opposite ends of an alley. But when they tried to retreat upward using their anti-gravity packs, they discovered Morrison had anticipated this. Nets, simple steel cable nets, had been strung between buildings at various heights. The aliens' advanced sensors, calibrated to detect energy weapons and high-tech threats, had completely missed them. Three warriors became helplessly tangled, their struggles only making it worse. Sir Reichstal reported to Zex Thor, "We're losing contact with ground teams across all insertion points. The humans, they're not fighting like any species we've encountered. There's no pattern, no formation, no." "That's because we don't play by your rules," Morrison's voice cut in again. "We spent our entire history fighting each other. You think your fancy tech makes you superior? We killed each other just fine with pointy sticks and rocks." To prove his point, a resistance fighter armed with nothing but a compound bow was systematically picking off alien warriors. The arrows, tipped with a paste made from cultured bacteria, didn't need to penetrate their environmental suits deeply. Just a scratch was enough. In Chicago, aliens discovered their suits' filtration systems clogged with microscopic particles, carefully selected pollutants that Earth species had long since adapted to. In London, they found their sensors blinded by a combination of fog and specialized chaff. In Tokyo, they learned why fighting in an urban environment against defenders who know every inch of the terrain is a nightmare. Reaper actual to all units, Morrison broadcast on the human frequencies. Status report. The responses came in quick succession. New York reporting. "They're running Chicago here. They've lost cohesion." London calling. "You should see them try to handle the underground." Tokyo standing by. "They're starting to shoot at shadows." Morrison allowed himself a grim smile. "Phase 3, ladies and gentlemen. Show them why humans are the apex predators of a death world." He switched to the alien frequency one last time. "Hey, Commander. You're probably wondering why we're called Deathworlders. Here's a fun fact: every human you see, we're not just soldiers, we're walking biohazards to your people. Every breath your troops take, every surface they touch, every drop of water that gets through those fancy suits. It's all full of microorganisms that we live with just fine, but that your people have no defense against." He paused for effect. "And the best part, we're just getting warmed up." On his screens, Morrison watched as the alien forces began a panicked retreat. But they'd learned soon enough leaving would be much harder than arriving had been. "All units execute containment protocols," he ordered. "Let's make sure our guests get the full Earth experience before they leave." The hunt was on, and humanity was no longer the prey. Commander Zex Thor paced the bridge of the Eternal Glory, all four arms twitching nervously. The holographic displays showed a catastrophic failure at every level of the invasion force. But worse than the military losses was the realization slowly dawning on him: they had completely misunderstood what they were dealing with. "Sir," Yixtal reported, his voice shaking, "preliminary analysis shows that 60% of our ground forces have been incapacitated by biological contamination. The survivors, they're not the same. They're jumping at shadows, refusing to leave their ships. Some are showing signs of psychological breakdown. The humans," another officer chittered, "they don't fight like warriors. They fight like predators." Zex Thor finished. "Because that's what they are." The main view screen activated, showing Morrison's face. How the humans had hacked their supposedly unhackable communications system was yet another humbling discovery. "Having a bad day?" Morrison asked, grinning. "Let me guess, you're wondering why your fancy shields can't stop lead bullets, why your plasma weapons just give us suntans, and why your troops are dropping dead from catching the equivalent of a human cold." Zex Thor's mandibles clicked in frustration. "What do you want? Me? I'm just the welcoming committee. But since you asked," Morrison's grin widened. "Check out your main base near Denver." The commander quickly switched views to their primary ground installation. What he saw made all four of his eyes widen in horror. The humans hadn't attacked the base directly. They hadn't needed to. Instead, they had seeded the entire area with engineered strains of common Earth bacteria, chosen specifically for their ability to thrive in the aliens' environmental systems. The base's air filters, designed to stop chemical and biological weapons, were useless against organisms that had evolved alongside humans for millions of years. Fun fact, Morrison continued, clearly enjoying himself. Humans have roughly the same number of bacterial cells in their bodies as human cells. We're basically walking ecosystems, and everything on this planet has evolved to either kill us or live with us. Guess which category you fall into. On the ground, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. The alien base's medical facilities were overwhelmed. Warriors were collapsing from infections that their immune systems had no defense against. Even their most advanced medical technology was useless against billions of years of evolutionary arms race on Earth. Sir Reichstau reported, "We're receiving transmissions from the Confederation Council. They're questioning your command." Of course they were. The Confederation had never lost a war, had never even faced serious resistance. Now they were being decimated by what they had dismissed as primitives, and the political vultures were circling. The commander, a new voice broke in one of the council members. "Your invasion force has been effectively neutralized by a species that hasn't even achieved faster-than-light travel. Explain yourself." Before Zex Thor could respond, Morrison cut in again. "Oh, you must be the management. Perfect timing. Let me show you something interesting." The screens shifted to show various scenes from around the world. Aliens in environmental suits being taken down by simple traps. Advanced warriors fleeing from humans armed with primitive projectile weapons. Entire squads being incapacitated by what humans casually dismissed as stomach bugs. "You see," Morrison continued, "we didn't need to match your technology. We just needed you to underestimate us long enough to learn your weaknesses. And boy, did you have a lot of them." The council member's voice came back, noticeably less confident. This is impossible. We are the supreme species of the galaxy." "Funny thing about that," Morrison replied. "Earth species learned a long time ago that being the supreme anything doesn't mean much when you're dead. We didn't become apex predators because we were the strongest or fastest. We did it by being the most adaptable killers this planet has ever produced." As if to emphasize his point, another alien squad went dark, their final transmission consisting of panicked screaming about invisible enemies referring to the bacteria that had breached their suits. Sir Reichstau reported, "We're receiving withdrawal orders from the Council. They're classifying Earth as a Class X death world. Maximum quarantine protocols." Zex Thor slumped in his command chair. Thousands of years of Confederation supremacy, undone in days by a species that still used combustion engines. "Before you go," Morrison added, his voice now deadly serious, "let me make something clear. This was us being nice. We could have engineered viruses specifically for your biology. We could have used our nuclear weapons. We could have done a lot of things. Remember that if you ever think about coming back." The alien fleet began its withdrawal, leaving behind their dead and their pride. As they retreated, they detected multiple satellites being launched from Earth's simple radio beacons, broadcasting a clear message in all known galactic languages. "Earth, where apex predators come to learn they're not apex anymore. Approach at your own risk, on the bridge of the eternal glory." Zex Thor watched the blue-green death world recede. "Add a note to the official report," he ordered. "The humans don't just survive on their death world, they rule it. And now we know why." 2 weeks after the failed invasion, Colonel Morrison stood in the captured alien command center near Denver. The facility had been thoroughly sanitized both literally and figuratively of its previous occupants. Teams of scientists were already reverse engineering what technology the aliens had left behind in their panic retreat. Sir Lieutenant Chen called out, "We've established a connection with the Confederation Council using their own quantum communication array." Morrison straightened his uniform, a habit from years of service, even though he knew the aliens couldn't care less about human military protocol. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the council chamber a semicircle of various alien species, all looking decidedly uncomfortable. "Gentlemen, ladies, and whatever genders your respective species have," Morrison began, lighting a cigar just for dramatic effect. "I trust our little demonstration has made an impression." The council members chittered and buzzed among themselves before their speaker, a tall, crystalline being, stepped forward. "Earth has been classified as a Class X death world. No Confederation vessel will be permitted within 3 light years of your solar system. You have won your independence, human." Morrison blew a smoke ring through the hologram. "Independence? No, you misunderstand. We already had that. What you gave us was something much more valuable: knowledge. Knowledge that we're not alone in the universe, and that the universe isn't ready for us. He gestured to the facility around him. You left us quite a few presents. Our scientists are having a field day. Give us a decade, maybe two, and we won't be trapped in our solar system anymore. And guess what? Unlike you, we've spent our entire existence adapting to hostile environments. One of the council members, a being that looked like a cross between a mantis and a supercomputer, spoke up. Are you threatening the Confederation? Threatening? Morrison laughed. No, this is a professional courtesy call. See those beacons we're setting up around our system? They're not just warnings for you. They're warnings for anyone thinking about following in your footsteps. He took another puff of his cigar. The messages are pretty simple. First beacon says warning apex predator species. Second one says approach at own risk. And my personal favorite, the third one, if you can read this, you're in range of human bacteria. The council chamber erupted in alarm chatter. Morrison waited patiently for them to settle down. One last thing, he added. We found your classification protocols. Deathworld doesn't quite cover it, so we came up with a new designation for Earth origin world. Here there be monsters. As the council processed this, General Thompson entered the room, holding a tablet. Colonel, you might want to see this. Our deep space probes just picked up signals from at least 3 other civilizations who were watching how this played out. They're all requesting diplomatic contact. Morrison grinned at the council. Would you look at that? Seems like some folks out there appreciate a species that can handle itself. Don't worry, we'll give them better first contact protocols than you did. The crystalline speaker raised what might have been a hand. The Confederation has stood for 10,000 years, and now it knows its place. Morrison interrupted. You're not the apex anymore. Deal with it. Oh, and one more thing, we're keeping your ships. Consider it payment for cleanup costs. With that, he cut the transmission. The facility was quiet except for the hum of machinery and the distant sound of scientists arguing over alien technology. I think they got the message, Thompson asked. Morrison looked at the star map they'd extracted from the alien databases, now showing Earth with its new classification glowing bright red. Around it, the warning beacons formed a perimeter that no sane species would cross. Oh, they got it, he stubbed out his cigar. The galaxy just learned that humans don't need fancy tech to be dangerous. We managed that all on our own. He turned to leave, then paused. By the way, how many species have requested contact? 7 now, Thompson replied. Apparently, being able to turn an invasion into a mass grave with nothing but bacteria and bullets makes you popular in certain circles. Morrison grinned. Damn right it does. Now, let's go show the galaxy why Earth isn't just a death world, it's the death world. Above Earth, the warning beacons pulsed their message to the stars. Here lies Sol, where the monsters aren't under the bed, they're running the planet.